Greetings from Zion. I cannot believe how beautiful it is here. It absolutely stopped me in my tracks. I was feeling pretty crappy. I am going through some stuff, as many of us are, and that's why I wanted to turn the camera on. But getting here, I'm just like, anyone who's been here knows that's why everyone comes to Zion. It's my first time here, so stunning. I'm just sitting here watching. Let me show you what I'm looking at. There's a full moon coming, and I can feel the intensity in the collective. And it's also a personal repeat coming up for myself. The full moon is conjunct Chiron, which is really huge. And Chiron is in the gate 51, the gate of shock. Pluto is stationing to go direct. So Pluto's energy is intensified. And Pluto is the planet of death and transformation. It's the planet, both Pluto and Chiron are, at their most intense, they're dragging us, kicking and screaming to awakening, to doing our healing work. The gate of shock is, this full moon is on my south node, and the sun is on my north node, and Pluto and natal sun. So this energy that's coming through me is quite familiar in my own repetitive programs that come up to be worked with and to be loved. So I guess I'll just share just what I was releasing yesterday. I spent 16 hours in this energy enhancement system, a 32 unit scalar wave and light frequency energy room. And the first 10 hours I slept the whole time, pretty much. It just knocked me out. Now I'm also on my moon, so but this is added, it's like it's catalyzing a deeper healing. And then the second day I went in for another 6 hours, and by the very last hour I started feeling the energy coming up, and so my body started doing little jolts. I started moaning, kind of like my heart started aching. And so it built up and built up until finally there was only one other guy in the room, thankfully, and I warned him. Some emotions are coming through. Nothing's wrong. So he said, sure, whatever, go ahead. So it felt safe to release. And what came up was the familiar pattern of feeling very afraid of the unknown, afraid of like not having a clear direction and not really knowing what I'm doing. And also this feeling of aloneness of, I'm a manifester, 6'2" manifester, but also my, the south node in the 9th house Aries. So where this eclipse is, it has to do with the shock of coming in to this life, into this form, and being shocked at the separation, the core wound of separation from God and from the place where we were. We get slammed into it's the birth, the birth canal and coming into the world. That is the first shock that we go through. for myself, the feeling is like, what is this place? Where am I? And why is it so distorted? And where is nature? Where is my, as my teacher said, where's the dream time? It's like a memory of being so connected, even in form, being so connected to like tribal family and the earth, and having access to our spirituality, my spirituality, and having this whole other experience of being in form, and then coming into this lifetime and the shock of that, of like, what the fuck is this? Where am I? Who are these people? What is this energy and this frequency that I've been born into? It's and the response was, I need to heal this. I need to heal everybody, and I need to heal the world. and then actually the real work was to heal myself. So it felt very alone. It felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to figure this out myself, because obviously the people around me aren't connected to reality. They're not connected to their hearts. They're not connected to what I so remember. And as infants, we do remember. We have that connection to the realm where we are in God's love, and we feel that unconditional love just showering down on us. And we do not feel any separation between anything. It's like complete immersion in reality and who we are. And then we get sent here, and the veil comes down over us, and we fully forget. But we don't fully forget when we're infants. We're still connected, but we don't have words. So we don't have like a logical comprehension to speak about it. But we're fully aware. And I think that's the shock, is the remembering, and yet looking around and seeing, oh my gosh, I got a lot of work to do. What did I just come into? Now, the other thing about this shock is that throughout human history, and throughout all many lifetimes that we've been living, we've been going through the shock of separation, the sadness and the tragedy of so many thousands of years of humans forgetting who we are, and the atrocities that we do because of that, because we have been disconnected and fractured away from our true self and the love that we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know that we are that love that we are looking for, and that causes a lot of pain. And so we've murdered each other, we've betrayed each other, we've lied and cheated in order to get our needs met. And we all carry the shock of a tragedy and trauma in our system. And it's various memories, unconscious memories that we each carry, certain programs in the collective. And so we had this frequency of shock in our body, and that's what causes the restlessness and the anxiety, because it's wanting to, when we're not addressing and feeling the emotions of what's coming up in the now, which is directly tied to the repeat of our karma and what we've been through, the traumas and the shock that we've been through, where our brother turned our back on us. We were sent to war. We lost our parents suddenly. We were put in prison. We were ostracized for thinking differently. Oh, so many things, right? I was a healer in a lifetime, and I was caught by a king, and I was sneaking herbal medicines to the village people to help heal them. And I was like fully in my joy and felt, what could go wrong? This is like, I'm totally following my heart, and this is good. I'm helping people. But I knew I had to be careful about it because of the time I was living in. I would walk from the forest where I lived with my grandmother into town, and I would pretend to sell eggs, and I would secretly be giving out herbs. Now, I don't know why I'm telling this story. It's just one example of my own memory of shock from this energy that we're in right now. The memory of coming into town and this woman completely pissed at me and yelling, coming out of her little house in the village, coming out yelling at me and telling me I killed her husband, and suddenly turning on me and blaming me for killing her husband, that I tried to save his life, but it was too late. So all the village people realized I was a witch. And this is not just my story. Many of us have gone through this. And then the lord of the town, or the king, whatever he was, he wanted to set an example, and so he put me in a dungeon. And I withered away in this dungeon until I died. And that, that set me up, and that carried into this lifetime. And that's, part of the mold toxicity and the extreme fatigue in my story has a lot to do with that lifetime of feeling hopeless, and no one came and saved me, and just like no one would even consider my perspective or even see that I was trying to help. It was just complete, like, nope, you're going and you're going to be set an example of, so that no one else does this crime that you've done. So I went through a whole regression with a very famous regression therapist and astrologer, evolutionary astrologer named Patricia Walsh. She took me through this lifetime, and we went in through the whole process into the dying process and watching and feeling my body just give up. And then we took my body up into the upper realms and did a whole process of cleansing and healing that body, and going through the process of talking to the king, yelling at the king, expressing my anger, telling him what I needed to say, and connecting back up with my grandmother and my mother, and this like feminine lineage of like incredible herbal wisdom and that it came from. And we cleansed my body, and so it was this very profound, deep healing experience of that lifetime. But the imprint still comes around, and so like I died alone in that lifetime. I died from shock, and then of course there was probably a lot of other emotions that were gone through, including the fear of the hopelessness and the abandonment. Like my grandma never came, no one ever came. And then the aloneness of like dying alone. And that's just one lifetime where I was left all alone. And so the skip step in my chart, Mars, the ruler of this south node, the ruler of this full moon that we're in is Mars, Aries. Mars is ruled by Aries. And Mars is actually in Gemini right now, squaring Neptune. So it could be bringing up like a lot of emotions. Neptune is water. Neptune is in Pisces, is water. And Mars in Gemini, depending on where it is in your house, in your chart, you could be having kind of this past life memory subconsciously coming up. Hopelessness, disillusion, no direction, kind of a foggy haze. And so in my chart, it's in Cancer in the 12th house. And so that even adds to this loss of my will, feeling completely like I had no will to do anything about my situation. Anyways, so the whole point of me sharing this personal journey is actually because collectively we're in general, people are starting to feel a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of hopelessness, and the shock of living in this world. And we all, like, I think a lot of people understand and realize, I don't want to be in this kind of world where people treat each other this way, where war is acceptable, and where we're educated to become robots and a part of this enslaved system. Nobody wants that anymore. And so we all want this change, and yet I think a lot of people are beginning their healing journey and just starting to learn what the work is. The work of having these repeats come up, whether it's through an illness. In my case, it's the fatigue that brings the emotion up, or whether it's a situation in our life externally with a relationship, somebody that's betrayed us, abandoned us, just died. That's abandonment. All the Scorpio wounds and all this, like, the shock. And so the shock is to our innocence. Jupiter is in the gate 25, the gate of innocence. And this is where it's all leading us back to, is to realize our innocence. And part of that is also being able to stop pointing the finger when we are triggered, to stop looking for a reason outside of ourselves, and to be with the emotions that are coming up, to be with the angst and the discomfort and the anxiety. And for me, it's just this, like, today it feels a little like ungroundedness, like I'm just floating and I don't really have a direction until I got here. Then I'm like, yes, this is where I was going. But we can realize that person, the situation, let's just say it's the person, whatever we're being triggered by, and this takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of maturity and humility. On the journey, this is a turning point when you really get that there is nothing outside of you and no one is doing anything to me. In other words, that person is playing their role in your dream. It's all your dream. It's all your movie. And you've created this. Your higher self and your soul has created this situation with this person in order to trigger these old, shocking emotions that are stuck in the body. And the ego mind, the old program, because it wants to stay alive, it wants to be a separate self that says, I am a separate doer and chooser, and I am in charge of my life. And so therefore, they're doing something to me also. The ego wants to remain separate. And so it's going to convince us to point our finger outside. And so to turn that around takes a lot of maturity and a real sincere, heartfelt longing for truth and reality. And that's reality, that anytime we're triggered, it's always an inside job. And there's always incredible gems that follow when we are able to say, okay, what's going on, sweetheart? Learn how to work with our innocence and call in the angels, call in your healing team, call in the white light of divinity, shine it down on that pain and find out where it is in your body. Deep breaths, just be with it, just hold the presence. I'm just like, look how beautiful the flowers, and hold the presence for yourself as best as you can, that presence. So the mind is going to be going nuts. The body's going to be going nuts. There's going to be all this resistance. But there's always something that is watching, regardless. Regardless of what's going on in the mind and the body. There's always our presence in the background, waiting for our attention. So even when there's a shitstorm going on inside you, you can always choose to put the attention there and realize you're actually watching this whole process. And by bringing the presence, and that presence is where the love is where our true self, it is our true self, it's reality. By bringing our attention to that presence, it creates this space, this spaciousness, because it's unattached and has no emotion about what's going on in our life. Even though the ego and the personality is going to feel like, oh my God, this is so personal, it's happening to me, I can't handle it. Of course, all this drama, let the drama come. Let the drama unfold while watching. You get to become you're the main player in your movie, and expression is actually what's being called for. Expression of this energy coming through. Anger, sadness, hopelessness, whatever it is, it wants to be released and expressed. And when we're able to really sit with ourselves and do this, very challenging yet simple work. And there could be like some sort of saying that comes through, like, I'm all alone. For me it was like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm terrified, I'm all alone. And that was the signal for me to hold my blankie and hold my little one and let the tears come and just say, I love you, I love you, I love you. We're doing this together. I got you. I'm here for you. And when we can be here for ourselves like that, it creates a bigger space for us to be able to feel deeper and deeper layers of our emotion and our trauma. And we keep letting the cycles happen. There's an expansion cycle of, after we feel our feelings and do the work, we go into more clarity, more connection with ourselves, more joy. And then there's the contraction phase. The contraction phase can last a long time in the beginning. It can feel like you're going through a dark night of the soul. That's what a long contraction phase is, like a dark night of the soul. There's no feeling like you're connected to anything, completely shut down, just miserable, right? But even then, there is the possibility to turn the attention to the awareness, find out what is not changing in my experience. That time in the contraction phase is when you can be on your knees in devotion to what you really want. You want home, you want love, you want to feel connected, you want to be back inside your true self, you want to have all the things that we all want to have: beauty, love, connection, joy, creativity. And that the contraction times, the dark night of the soul, is when the possibility is to invoke the most commitment and devotion to our path, because it's so dramatic down there in the darkness. But it's where we're like catalyzed to do something about our misery. And ideally that's something, and during the awakening, if you're on the awakening path, that something is praying, chanting, singing, dancing, expressing, or just meditating and sitting still, watching the mind, finding out, what the hell is this going on in my mind and why am I so miserable? But also reaching out for something more powerful than us, for the reason, looking for the reason why we're going through what we're going through. So yeah, the Chiron pain of shock and the shock to being cut off from our true identity, Aries. So collectively, it's like a big dark night of the soul is happening. And yeah, just wanted to share my own journey because I've been through the dark night of the soul so long, and I know how to hold space for myself now. And the work is continuing. It doesn't, I don't know if it stops, but the more you realize that it's not outside myself, the work is inside whenever I'm triggered. And you realize also, let me just take a breath. My heart's beating fast because I'm sharing stuff I want to share, but there's like nervousness about it for some reason because I don't know. So yeah, I forgot what I was saying. We can stop pointing the finger outside of ourselves and realizing that there's a certain types of programs that we carry that we're here to meet and love and feel through, and the same programs repeat and repeat and repeat. And your movie, your play will play itself. If there's stuff inside unconsciously that we haven't met yet, and you know that because you feel still constricted and limited and icky and like separate. So life is going to play itself to show you what old belief systems you're still carrying and what old emotions are still trapped in your body. And when we realize that, okay, this challenging thing is playing for me to do some work here, and thank you, and to say thank you, God, thank you, higher self, and thank you to myself for being willing to come here in this form at this time on the planet, to be able to do this work. And it's not easy. We don't have to like it. It's not fun. But the rewards are everything that we want, we're looking for. So we see the repeat. And another thing I want to share is this innocence. Jupiter is going to be going in this gate for a few more months. This innocence. So here's the thing. No one is doing anything to you. That means there's no more pointing the finger outside. That means they are innocent. Now, that is a cognitive dissonance, a complete no to the ego. What do you mean there's no one outside me? What do you mean they're innocent? They did this to me. The ego's victim. Ego wants to stay in victim consciousness. But here's the work of us coming back to our innocence. We also have to be able to see the other's innocence. We're all just these pawns in this old paradigm program playing itself out to be unraveled so that we can step back into our awakened oneness consciousness. We all have to do it together. So we're all unraveling a piece of the puzzle through our wounding and our triggers and through the illness in our body. So being able to come back and coming back to our heart means coming back to our innocent child inside that felt like they did something wrong, but they never did. And then we also make these belief systems from our wounding as children that my parents did something bad or they did something bad to me. But really we just created a belief system that is inaccurate. So this is really intense work. It's very deep, and getting help, finding a hypnotherapist, learning to do the inner child work. There's people that help us with that. But that's what it means to remember our innocence, that no matter what happens, actually, we're just being played, and we're not actually, we never choose intentionally to do anything bad to anyone. Now it may seem that there's a lot of people in power that are choosing to do their bullshit. They're just pawns too in this great unraveling. So it's going to take a while for everyone to realize our innocence, but it really is the key to our oneness. To realize we all have been victims, and we all have been perpetrators in history. Nobody's innocent. Nobody's innocent in terms of that they haven't played the villain role. And that's why we can come to this realization. It's all just being played. It's all just the program acting itself out. And on a soul level, we're all just characters in a play. And on a soul level, we freaking love each other. Even like the worst assholes on the planet right now, at a soul level, we're just in love. Everybody's innocent. We know who we are. Nobody's separate from God. Nobody's outside of God's love, of the love that we are. Nothing and no one is outside of that. And that's where we're heading. I'm a visionary. I'm a 6'2", so I'm holding the highest possibility. And I know we all have a lot of work to do, including myself. So that's it. I know I've talked a lot. I just had to get this off my chest. Oh, this energy in me. Okay, I'm gonna go just be in awe of the place that I'm at. Lots of love to you on your journey home and during this very intense full moon. Mwah.